My name is Michael Havers. I'm a cameraman. For 10 years, I've been working behind the lens, but I've never really felt inside the industry. After a while, I realized something. Hollywood doesn't just create movies, it manufactures realities. And sometimes the ones who get too close to the light don't come back. It all began with an email I got one night. Subject line, "You've been chosen." Sender, Cruise Productions. The message was short. Just follow the light. The rest will find you. At first, I thought it was a joke. But the next day, my agent called. "Michael, Tom Cruise is starting a new project. There's a crazy NDA, but the pay is huge. An offer like that doesn't come twice." I accepted. No contract ever mentions what it costs to lose your mind. The set was at an abandoned airfield outside Los Angeles. The signs were rusted. The wind smelled like dust and ozone. At the gate, a man greeted me by name, though I had never met him. He handed me a small black card embossed with a pupil-shaped symbol. "Keep it with you," he said. "The light has to recognize you." Even then, I should have understood something was wrong. But when curiosity and fear meet, we always choose the wrong side. Inside, silence ruled. No one spoke. Their faces were bare, but their eyes all looked the same. Empty, focused, as if they were listening to something. Cameras were set up, but none were on. Still, I could feel a red dot on my forehead, the phantom glare of a lens. And then I saw him. Tom Cruise. Up close, his face was unnaturally smooth, not like skin, but like polished porcelain. Yet his shadow trembled, as if it didn't belong to him. For the first rehearsal, everyone went quiet. Tom stood in the middle of a circle marked on the floor. The cameras were off, but he was acting. When someone yelled, "Cut!" the lights flickered. But Tom didn't move. He just stared, right at me. And I heard a voice, inside my skull. "I've seen the light inside your eye, Michael." No one else reacted. But from that moment on, I couldn't see the same way again. That night, my computer turned itself on. Footage from the day appeared on the screen, but something was off. Tom's eyes didn't reflect light, they absorbed it. And in one frame behind him, I saw myself. But my face was gone. I turned the camera on, facing my reflection. For a second, the man in the mirror smiled. I didn't. He did. And it was Tom's smile. The next morning, no one on set recognized me. The director shook my hand and said, "You must be the new guy." As if I had never been there before. The calendar had shifted back a day. My phone photos were gone. But there was a new file. I opened it. It was my room. I was sleeping. The camera slowly zoomed in on my face. Then I heard that same whisper. "If you watch someone long enough, they'll forget who you are." That night, my shadow moved. I didn't. It looked at me and smiled. From my own mouth came a voice I didn't control. "You're one of us now." Every light in the room exploded. Only a single glow remained, pulsing like a heartbeat. And from inside that light, an eye stared back at me. It was alive, trembling, watching. And with each second it looked at me, I felt my memories peeling away, replaced by something else. Tom Cruise's face burned inside my eyelids. Every time I blinked, it shimmered behind them. When morning came, I looked in the mirror. My eyes were no longer brown, they were gray, and my mouth was smiling. Not by choice, it felt like invisible strings were pulling my muscles into place. A voice whispered, close and cold, "Don't blink. The light is watching." And that's when I understood. I wasn't the cameraman anymore. I had become the camera. Black screen. One final line fades in. Some smiles aren't born, they're reflected. I don't know if I've ever really slept since that night. Time stretches differently here. Seconds drag like molasses, minutes slip through invisible cracks, and hours fold over themselves in ways that don't make sense. Sometimes I wake, and I'm not in my room. Sometimes I wake, and my room isn't mine. The walls lean slightly, the corners deepen, and the shadows crawl along the floor like they're alive, testing the space between me and reality. The light, it never turns off. Every switch I flick, every breaker I flip, it hums back to life as if resisting extinction. I tried to cover every window, every source of light. Even then, I can feel it, a pulse, almost imperceptible behind my eyes. A rhythm that isn't mine. It watches. I started filming everything. 3 cameras in the living room, 1 in the kitchen, another in the hallway. I wanted proof, evidence that I wasn't losing it. But when I reviewed the footage, I saw things that weren't supposed to exist. My reflection moves slightly off. My body is there, yes, but the movements, they lag, as if tethered to some other timeline. The reflection is wider-eyed, more alert, somehow more alive than me. When it blinks, it doesn't just blink. It lingers for a moment too long, as though savoring the act, memorizing my face. Sometimes it smiles, and when it smiles, I swear it's Tom Cruise's face stitched onto mine, perfectly aligned, too perfect to belong to anyone alive. I tried speaking to it. Words come out differently. My mouth opens, but the sound is alien, a broken frequency that doesn't exist in any human voice. I whisper my name. The reflection whispers back, not with my voice, not with any voice, but inside my skull, echoing in 100 microtones at once. You're not the one watching. You never were. At the studio the next day, or what I think was the studio, the gates had vanished. The airfield stretched endlessly, asphalt burned into a perfect circle, the black card symbol etched into its center. The mirror stood there. No frame, no support, floating slightly off the ground, dark as oil, reflecting nothing yet everything. I approached, my camera in hand. The reflection met my eyes immediately, and it smiled. I froze. The camera beeped. Files appeared, each showing me approaching the mirror, yet behind me, in the same frame, something else moved. I leaned in, and I saw it clearly. A crowd of shadows, mirrored versions of me, all reaching for the glass from every possible angle, some incomplete, some glitched, like corrupted data trying to form a human shape. Their eyes burned gray, unblinking. They knew me, better than I knew myself. I touched the glass. It pulsed, hot and wet, as if alive. The surface trembled beneath my fingertips, and I felt my bones shiver in response. My camera vibrated. Another file appeared. I pressed play. It was my bedroom, but twisted. The walls curved inward slightly. The ceiling sagged. The shadows stretched into impossible angles. A sound, a low, wet hiss, like breathing from somewhere inside the room, but not of the room, echoed through the speakers. And then I saw myself sleeping. Only my face wasn't mine. The eyes were gray, too wide, pupils absorbing the light, swallowing it whole. A whisper came, not from the footage, but from my mind. The mirror is patient. It waits, and it always wins. The next hours, maybe days, maybe seconds, merged. I followed the reflection everywhere, in every frame, every room, every corner of my apartment. I began to notice the small things, how the shadows never quite matched the objects that cast them, how the light bent subtly when I wasn't looking directly at it, how my camera recorded things I never aimed at, how every time I blinked, the reflection anticipated it, and I felt its presence in my skull, pressing against my temples, urging me to see, to understand, to obey. I looked at my hands, not mine. They were pale, smooth, trembling. I tried to grab something, anything, and my fingers passed through it like mist. And then I realized the reflection wasn't just following me. It was me, or rather, I was becoming it. That night I sat in the center of the room. Cameras everywhere, screens glowing faintly. I didn't sleep. I didn't blink. I just watched the files play themselves. Frame after frame, 1,000 tiny movements, 1,000 tiny versions of me, all moving in perfect, synchronized chaos. And in the middle, always, the mirror, always watching, always smiling. And then a voice, layered, multiplied, echoing from all directions, yet inside my head. You wanted to see what's real, Michael. But truth only exists when someone's watching. I realized then I wasn't alone. I had never been alone. And the reflection, it didn't want to be seen. It wanted to consume, fade to black. Heartbeat. A single whisper. The camera doesn't lie. But the truth bends. Inside the mirror, I first saw the place through a reflection. Not on a mirror, not on a screen, but in a shimmer that flickered between frames of reality. I blinked, and it was there. A building, impossibly tall, impossibly white. The light wasn't from the sun. It didn't come from the bulbs inside. It radiated, solid and alive, as if the walls themselves had been compressed from pure luminosity. When I stepped inside, I felt it before I saw it. The hum. Not electrical, not mechanical, a resonance that vibrated through my bones, my teeth, my heart. The air smelled faintly sweet, like ozone mixed with burnt sugar. It was oppressive, yet magnetic. I wanted to run. I couldn't. The figures moved in perfect harmony. Not actors, not people, at least not entirely human. They were all there because he willed it. Tom Cruise. He didn't speak at first. He didn't need to. He simply was. And the room obeyed. The light bent toward him, spilling across the faces of the followers. Eyes lifted, unblinking, gazes locked on his every gesture. I tried to look away, tried to focus on the architecture, the flickering shadows. But the eyes found me. Always. Even though I was supposed to be invisible. I was given a seat, though I hadn't asked for it. In the center of the hall, rows of light reaching like fingers, the air thick with static and whispered prayers I couldn't hear but could feel. He raised a hand. The hum stopped. The light froze. Time itself seemed to hesitate. And then he moved. A step forward and the air convulsed. 2 steps, and the walls seemed to pulse in rhythm with my heartbeat. 3 steps, and I realized this was no longer a room. It was a cage, a stage, and I was both audience and participant. He spoke finally. Not words exactly, not language, not sound, but a pattern of frequencies that pressed into my skull, molding my thoughts, bending my fear into awe. You see the light, Michael. But it doesn't see you. It sees through you. You belong to it. To me. To the frame I couldn't breathe. Or maybe I was breathing too much. I couldn't tell. The light wrapped around my lungs, squeezing, urging, exposing. I could hear my own pulse in the silence, and his, somewhere beyond, echoing, synchronized. They brought me forward. No hands touched me, yet I moved. I walked between rows of light, faces glowing, hollow and alive. I saw fragments, a dancer frozen mid-leap, her shadow stretching too long, a cameraman adjusting a lens that wasn't there, a janitor sweeping dust that didn't exist. All of them bound to the rhythm of the hall, to the silent hymn that only Cruise could conduct. He reached the pulpit of light. He raised a hand. The air shimmered. And I understood, fully, that the light was his command, his domain, his worship. Everything inside it bent to his presence, and the reflection of myself I had carried all this time. It flickered, quivered, and dissolved. I wanted to resist. I wanted to scream, to run, to blink, and find myself back in my apartment, in the static hum of my cameras. But it was impossible. The light didn't permit it. The building didn't permit it. Tom Cruise, standing there with that perfect, impossible smile, didn't permit it. The light isn't a gift, he whispered, not with words, but inside me. It's obedience. You must move with it, think with it, breathe with it. Or it swallows you. I knelt. I didn't know why. I didn't know how I got there. But the floor pressed me, The light pressed me, and the thousands of eyes watching pressed me. I understood the truth. I wasn't just observed, I was being rewritten. The hum remains. The shadows stretch longer than they should. And somewhere, just out of view, his reflection waits. The air is thicker here. Or maybe it's just me. Every breath I take tastes metallic, heavy, like iron filings scraping against the back of my throat. I can't tell where my lungs end and the room begins. The light from before. It's here too, but now it moves differently. It coils around me, teasing, pulling, dissecting every thought before I've even thought it. I tried to step back. The floor rippled beneath my feet. The walls stretched into infinity. The cameras, the reflections, the shadows, all converged into one impossible frame. And at the center, he waited. Tom Cruise, or what he had become. He didn't speak, yet the frequency in my skull was deafening. Images flashed behind my eyelids, doors that weren't there, opening into endless corridors. Faces that weren't human, twisted perfectly into smiles that belonged to no one. And myself, fragmented, split into 1,000 micro-versions, each obeying, each trembling. "You have a choice," the voice said. Not his lips, not his mouth, but the frequency itself. One step forward, or remain in the frame forever. I lifted my foot. It hovered. Time slowed. The shadows stretched, wrapping around my ankles like chains, whispering in fractured voices. "Choose wrong. Choose wrong. Choose wrong." Every instinct screamed to flee. Every fiber of my body wanted to collapse, to curl into nothingness. But the light would not allow it. It traced my spine, reaching in, rearranging my thoughts, aligning my fear with its rhythm. I was drowning in perception, in omnipresence, in his control. I felt my mind split. Part of me clung to reality, to the memory of who I was. Part of me yielded. The yielded part began to move differently, aligning with the rhythm of the light. I saw myself in the reflections, kneeling, standing, walking, running, all at once. And he smiled, approving. The air hummed with satisfaction. I tried to resist, but the resistance was already written. Every choice I thought I made had been guided, directed, orchestrated. I wasn't the observer, I was the performance, the frame's puppet. Then a silence, deeper than anything I had felt. No light, no shadows, no sound, just a single mirror in the center of the room. I approached it. The surface shimmered, fluid, like mercury. And there he was, smiling, unblinking. And yet, behind the smile, something else, something ancient, something uncontainable. "This is the end," the voice said. Or perhaps, the beginning. I reached out. The mirror pulled me in. The reflection shattered, then reassembled, then shattered again. My consciousness splintered. I was in the light. I was in the shadows. I was in him. The final realization came like a blow. I had never been alone, and I never would be. The light consumed everything. The shadows whispered every memory, every fear, every heartbeat. And Tom Cruise smiled, endlessly, perfectly, at the core of it all. I tried to scream. I tried to run. But there was no me left, only the frame, only him, only the reflection. The room disappeared. The city disappeared. Time dissolved. And somewhere, in the infinite echoes of light and shadow, I understood. You can leave the frame, but the frame never leaves you. The hum continues. The mirrors await. And somewhere beyond perception, his eyes are watching,